This episode of Outdoor Journal Radio is brought to you in part by the Invasive Species Centre, protecting Canada's land and water from invasive species. Freedom Cruise Canada, rent the boat, own the memories. J&B Cycle and Marine, your home for all things power sports, boats, and equipment. And Sail, the ultimate destination for your outdoor adventures. Well, hello, everybody. How are you today? Thank you for joining us. Peter Bowman, Angelo Biola, Outdoor Journal Radio, the podcast. Thank you.
Come on now.
Come on now.
That's right. And Dean Taylor over here.
Come on now.
Come on now.
Vova over there.
There's a bunch of bullshit.
Oh, Vova's the bullshit. Dean's a come on now. Vova's full of bullshit.
Come on now.
He can't hear the buttons still.
Oh, boy.
Well, you can't hear that. That's right, too.
He's got his headphones in, so his earpieces in
Yeah,
there.
he's listening to, I don't know, jazz, Megadeth or something. I don't know.
Vova. Lucky
Wonderful
guy.
program today. A little later on, we'll be joined. We first heard about the subject actually a few weeks ago on an episode about a study out of the state of Minnesota that showed that higher levels of mercury were found in walleye and perch in water that had zebra mussels. The higher concentration of zebra mussels, the higher levels of mercury in these two fish. And coming up here in a few minutes, we'll be joined by assistant professor at the University of Minnesota, Dr. Gretchen Hansen. She is a fisheries ecologist. We went right to the top. We asked Dean to get us somebody that knew a little bit about
Yeah,
the
we were
subject.
expecting low level. We didn't ever expect to get the ecologist of
Fisheries ecologist. And
Good.
thank you, Dean.
Good digging, Dino.
Thank
Good
you,
dig.
Dino, for getting that for us. So we'll be joined by her here in a couple of minutes to talk about this thing, because, you know, it affects all of us one way or the other, whether you're fishing and decide to harvest some walleye and perch. Just happens to be the most delicious fish on the planet. That's the biggest concern. Whether you do that or just buying it at a local grocery store one day, you need to know what is in our food, especially unpackaged food.
You got that right.
But first, a little business, Mr. Bowman.
Yeah, how about the Fish in Canada store? We always start out with the Fish in Canada store. Is that going to be anything down the back there?
Have I worn this one before?
Yeah, probably.
I
think I do remember
the steelhead?
Yankaricus micus there, I think.
Yeah, I love this one. It's beautiful.
Trout. Rainbow.
There's
the
all
gringo.
kinds of...
Gringo trout.
Oh, there's a speckled trout?
Yes, sir.
Nice.
Little brookie.
Look at you. You got in that one too,
Look
eh?
at that.
You're in all of them, aren't you?
Well, I don't have the hoodie. You got all the hoodies. I just got
Get the pictures.
pictures. Probably Photoshop my head in there.
Special.
I look like I'm a little jaundice in that picture there. Look at that. A little yellow in there, Dean. We might want to watch that, the color correction in there.
Shop.fishingcanada.com is where you need to go, or just fishingcanada.com and enter to the front door to the store and check out all of the latest offerings on that on our hoodies. These are special. By the way, have we ever mentioned that the hoodies are from a company called Campus Crew?
Very good company. Very good company with quality product.
Campus Crew, look them up. That's the only hoodie that you'll find on the Fish in Canada store site.
And we guarantee you comfort. We guarantee comfort.
Oh, my God.
There's just no doubt about it.
Comfort and quality.
Yes, sir. Something I'm really excited about. I know you are too, Ange. Season 39 of the Fish in Canada show is now airing. The new episodes are now airing. There's a bunch of fishies from them episodes. There's Ange and I and some other guys. I don't know who those other guys are. But
That's
not bad looking.
A couple of extras.
That big dirty old snake trout there, Ange.
the old snake trout.
Yes, sir. Got some big pikes up there. Dean and I. Stevie's got a big largemouth. Nick's got a striper. All that and more. We've got even more than that on this year's show.
Global Television Network, coast to coast to coast, every Saturday, 8 a.m., except on the left coast, 10 to 10:30 for those folks there. They're a little late getting up in the morning, but that's okay. We love them.
I'm with them.
We love them just the same.
I want that system around here.
Sportsman's Channel has us playing, I believe, 4 times a week, Monday through to Saturday, and WFN, World Fishing Network. By the way, the Sportsman's Channel is now available through Rogers.
Right? Sportsman Channel Canada.
Which is a big breakthrough. It's been a few months now, but it's kind of nice having them on the Rogers
Why not, right? Another chance to get some good fishing and hunting content. So
I watch us on the Sportsman channel on the weekend.
Did you?
Yeah.
So is that on Rogers? You have Rogers, Dean? Is that what you're saying?
My parents have Kojiko.
Okay, so it's on
They-
Kojiko.
Yeah, they've been there for a while, but Rogers is the latest to put them up, I believe.
I'm having a hard time finding Sportsman Channel Canada. So I've got WFN, I've got all the other outdoor
But
channels
we have
in
an
the US
ad,
and all that stuff.
We have an ad for our show that plays on there all the time that I had never seen before.
No.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't remember making it. Like, I don't remember us
What is
making
it?
it.
What is it? Yeah.
It's Pete talking about how we have the best job on the planet, and then Ange catches a big fish, and I don't remember ever doing that VO. So I don't know where.
Maybe it was pre-you. Maybe it's a really oldie. Maybe
but
it's
it's
pre-Dean.
new. It's new footage. Like, it's from last year.
Did Vova? Do you remember putting that commercial together? No.
Okay,
Joe and Monique
Okay,
would be the
something-
two.
no, but
people
we
that
would know about it.
How? We do like 80,000 reads a year.
No, but we would know. Wouldn't we know, guys?
I would hope we would know.
Is it good? Did we look good?
It was really good. I really
Oh.
enjoyed it. It got me all pumped up for the show.
There you go, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of brothers. Just don't especially think that we know what we're doing, but we know it's good shit that's going out there.
What episode was it on, Dean? Do you recall?
I was watching season. When this came, by the time this comes
Yeah.
out, it would have been 4 episodes ago. So it was the Nordic Point episode.
Nordic Point?
Oh wow!
Yeah.
Wow. There you go.
Yep.
All right.
Oh, okay.
All right. Okay. I hope you enjoyed the commercial. I would like to
was
enjoy
great.
it too.
Yeah,
We'll have to-
now we gotta see it. Now we have to go digging with Joe now to see what we can find out here. Obviously, see ourselves at work, at our best work. There.
We're not kidding, folks.
Yeah,
This
we're
is-
not right now. Also, Fishing Canada YouTube every Monday
Yes.
is our new episodes that air on Saturday,
Right.
goes on Monday on YouTube, along with the Sportsman Channel and et cetera, WFN. And they're all going to be new, coming out once a week again. So if you miss it on TV, please check it out on our YouTube channel and leave comments and subscribe and do all that kind of stuff.
Speaking of which, listener feedback. This week's listener feedback comes to us via YouTube, as
Hey,
Mr.
look
Bowman
at
just
that.
mentioned.
It's
Does that
working.
make them? No, this comment is not eligible for the $100, right?
No, because this isn't a question.
Okay, gotcha. So could Mark Grenier, I believe that's where you pronounce Mark
Yes, sir.
Grenier, 7692, who submitted this via YouTube.
Is that French? 7-6-9-2.
Yeah, he's from Quebec.
He's
is
from
he?
Quebec.
Grenier,
Okay.
Grenier.
All right,
Bonjour,
so my
Marc.
question-
Ça va, mon ami? Hey, you didn't know he's bilingual, did you?
Oh, I
Pretty
know
good,
you're
eh?
bi, all right. My question then, Dean, to
Meal
you,
set
more
me.
than it is to Mark, would Mark not been further ahead had he submitted this as a question as opposed to a comment? Because then he would have been eligible
Yeah.
to win a $100 coupon on fishingcanada.com. Is that correct?
If he put a question mark anywhere in there, he would have been eligible. But there's
Well, does that seem fair?
Mark,
Like,
I apologize for these two guys
Does
making
that
you feel
seem
bad
fair?
like that.
Does that seem
Mark's
fair?
just a good guy, just giving us, just working with us, not against us. You know what I mean? He's he's commenting and all that. And we ask for the people to comment. So
okay, but I don't know. We need to talk to the rules committee on this and see if.
yeah.
everybody's
Okay.
going to put a question mark. That's the best.
Well,
Why not? Right?
But
Put
we
it in
still
there.
have to. We still have to accept it.
Of
Once we
course,
read it, we
but-
have to accept it. So why not? I would go
At
for
the
it.
very, very end of it is we'll read it, and then at the
Yeah.
very end we'll have to put a
So,
little question mark in there.
Mark Grenier, 7692.
7-6-9-2. 92.
7692. That's what I said.
22.
Vingt-deux.
92. That's a weird one in French. That
Is
you
that?
have to go 20,
the only
40,
weird
60, 80, and then plus 12. I believe that's the way they do it en français.
Wow.
Ouais, 22.
Via YouTube, in response
bien.
to episode 151, suing. This is in response to this particular headline: suing to save striped bass. There are two main problems with Atlantic salmon. The first one is bad government management for years and years. The second one is climate change.
Yep.
No
Agreed.
kidding.
Agreed.
The water is too low and too hot in the rivers and oceans everywhere. So what he's responding to is an issue that we produced an episode, I don't know how long ago, I mean, it was 151, whenever that was, where we had Jeff Wilson on the program, because there was a major outbreak of we need to kill striped bass in the Miramichi or in the
gotta
west,
get them
on the
numbers
East Coast.
down to-
And so there was a whole thing that we did, and this is in response to that episode. So he's saying that there are two main issues, because the issues were Atlantic salmon, right? The people want to eradicate bass from the waterways down there because somehow they feel that bass is responsible for the decline of the Atlantic salmon.
Bass
Just to bring
and-
everybody up to speed.
Bass and muskie and smallmouth, and smallmouth bass too. This striped
just
bass is everything.
So I said bass. I
get
just
'em
said
all.
bass. I said bass.
But that was
that's why I
striper
covered.
concentric, really.
But
This one
I
was-
covered it all.
You missed muskie.
Well, I don't think muskie is probably as big. Anyways, regardless, don't get me. I want to read because you see, Mark, unbeknownst to Mark, he could have made $100 on this, because it's a very good point he's making, and we could have rounded it out to a question.
Why don't you just give him the $100 certificate if you love him that much? Don't be so cheap.
Can we take it out of?
him out.
Can we take? Can you cover it?
Sure.
Okay,
I like
so there you
Mark.
go, Mark. Congratulations, Peter Bowman is sending you a $100
Gift
Peter
certificate.
Bowman gift certificate, available and redeemable on fishingcanada.com.
Mon ami.
Yeah, you could send it to him in French if you like.
Oh, ouais. Ouais. Je parle français un petit peu.
Ouais. Where was I? So anyways, he goes on to say there are two main problems with Atlantic salmon. The first one is bad government management of fishery for years and years. The second is climate change. And the water is too low and too hot in rivers and oceans everywhere. So what is happening is that there is no real future for salmon fishermen, but there was for striped bass until today. By giving more commercial licenses for striped bass, Le Boutelier will kill Le Boutelier. Is that, I'm assuming that
Boutelier?
is, who is that?
I believe that's the minister.
The minister will kill that fishery too. Lodges,
For sure.
Well, without question.
For sure.
Lodges will go bankrupt and tourism will be more scarce. Good job, Le Boutier. Continue with that and kill everything, he says.
Destroy everything.
For example, I live in Quebec, which, that's how you knew he was from
Hey,
Quebec. Dean, you were
know.
cheating.
He's
I read all the
clairvoyant.
You knew that.
Dean's clairvoyant.
For example, I live in Quebec, which is close to the Trinity River. In 1980, there were more than 3,000 salmon to spawn. This year, 63. It is done.
It is done.
It is done.
See, if you'd have changed those two words around, is it done? And a question mark.
I'd have been in. I'd have been all in on that one. It's a good comment.
3,000 down to 63. Yeah, it's the way it is. It's unfortunate.
So I'm assuming Le Boutier is the federal minister of fisheries,
It
right?
would be DFO because
Might be,
DFO is
yeah,
involved.
DFO is hugely involved in this.
Yeah, that was.
And that's just, and this 3,000 salmon down to 63 is done before that, I'm assuming before this commercial uppage happened, right? So it's going to get worse everywhere, especially in the Miramichi and places like that. It's going to get...
Yeah, so
No, he's talking about salmon.
He is the minister
No, I know,
of
but
fisheries and
He's
oceans.
talking about salmon.
Right.
He's saying that there were more than 3,000 salmon.
No, I know I'm
Spawning.
saying that, but we're backtracking to killing all the stripers or the bass because they're killing all these fish. Is even going to get, well, you know what I mean? Go ahead.
I'm confused.
Go ahead.
But that's okay. I'm okay with that because I didn't know that Mark was from Quebec.
Dean did.
I know Dean did. And that's why you started speaking to him in
Well,
French.
Dean told me it was France. So I
Right.
thought I might as well.
But no,
my
it's
buddy.
a good comment, and thank you very much for submitting that. I would ask you, Mark, to rethink maybe sending us a question with a question mark on the end coming up.
Does
to
it
see
matter,
if we can-
Dean, where? Like that segment, the questions are fishfindermouse.com, correct? Am I
Yeah.
not? So how do they get involved?
We've been polling from
Just-
YouTube,
Okay, there you go.
so he would have been.
It's
he
all
would have
wide open
qualified.
game, right?
If he was subscribed. He's-
If you're subscribed, that's
Oh.
right
the
too.
majority of the people who listen to this podcast are not
Are
subscribed.
not subscribed.
Okay,
right.
well, how do you know if he's subscribed or
It
not?
shows me a little button beside his
Dean's-
name that says he's a loyal
Dean's a little better than
subscriber.
that. He knew he was French. Come
Yeah.
on, he knows they're subscribed.
Yeah.
I'm confused. You guys are confusing me today.
Oh God.
Oh, so they have to be subscribed as well then?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or else
So-
they're not loyal. We can't trust them.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
Be invading.
Oh. And somebody asked me the other day, a good friend, Tony DiBattista.
Tony, hi Tony, how are you,
on
buddy?
now.
He probably doesn't listen to us either, does he?
No, he listens apparently.
Yeah. Are you subscribed, Tony, to our YouTube channel?
Well,
please and thank you.
He wants to know. He asked me. He says, "So, I just realized that you guys have no subscription cost." I said, "No. Why would we do that?"
YouTube? Okay.
Yeah. Why would we do that? He said, no, because that seems like a waste of opportunity. Shouldn't people pay to subscribe? No, because we broadcast free of charge.
Yeah, these are our
He
people.
was confused. And then I said, where are you getting all this? And he was telling me in the gambling industry how it works. And they have...
Those guys that you're talking about, those guys have...
There's one guy who has 685,000
paid subscribers?
paid subscribers.
I can't even count that high. Not even in English.
Paid subscriber. And the minimum, because you can buy in at 3 different levels, right? The minimum level is $4.99 a month, $5 a month.
Wow.
That's the
What's he
minimum.
give? What's he give you extra? What can we
I
give
have
people
no
extra?
idea
Like, if
because
we're going to sell us.
I don't know because I'm not giving them the $5.
Exactly.
Normally, people do like if you want more episodes or you want like an uncensored episode. That's what people charge on Patreon.
Oh boy, we could make a lot of money on us swearing. I'll tell you that right now, uncensored.
If people had an appetite for that, we could charge. And the thing with that is because it's behind a paywall, you're not like liable for anything. You know, you can say whatever you want because someone paid for it.
Wow, like OnlyFans.
Exactly.
They can show you anything.
Yeah, we could do the same thing.
Well, I don't want to sound
Tony,
I don't want to sound greedy.
he wouldn't have made a comment about fishing or anything, would he have? He didn't. Did he say anything about fishing? No.
No,
It's all about.
he said, yeah, no, he did. He said, when we going fishing.
Ah, God, love him.
But
I love Tony.
where was I going with this? But I do love the idea of monetizing the brand. I mean, if that is, I mean, it sounds if it's that easy, then maybe we should be charging. What do you think?
I think no, at least not yet. When we get to 600 and something thousand, then we can start saying, okay, you know what? We're going to give you a little extra.
Are we there yet, Dean? Are we close? Can I aspire to
20-something thousand.
Okay,
Yeah,
well,
we
we're
get some
close.
work to
It's
do.
close
We got
enough.
some work.
Close enough. We could start maybe in a small way or something. I don't know.
Well, people can. There's a little button at the bottom to. I think it says like buy me a coffee. You can give us like $1 if you want.
Oh yeah,
Come on
If
now.
people really want to
They're not
give away
getting
money.
their coffees at Starbucks,
Has-
are they?
has
There's
anybody-
there's no $1 coffee there. I'll tell you that.
Has anybody given us $1 at all?
No.
No, or because you would let us know, right? You wouldn't hold out.
One time,
on us.
someone gave us $5 in a comment.
I remember that somehow. Yeah, I do remember that.
Well,
So
then we have monetized ourselves. Then what the hell am I worried
we,
about?
are we taxed on that? Do we
sure.
pay tax on that
I'm
$5?
sure.
You
If
know.
only if I claim it.
So it didn't really happen. We're just saying it.
Yeah,
happened,
we're
right?
just saying it, if it might have happened.
Wonder if the Countess got her hold of that $5 or
I
was
don't
it, did
know.
it go
Countess
to?
is not well. She's under the
I've
weather.
heard. Speaking
under
of
the
our
weather.
French Canadian friends.
Yeah.
There,
I got to get her on the show. How are we going to get her on the show, guys? We got to come up with a way. Can we fool her? Can we do this, Dean?
We
Is
get
this even possible?
go ahead.
Can I? I'll come up with a reason to have her come and sit down here, and put the headset on and everything else,
fool her.
and fool her into not knowing that we're actually up and running.
We could do an audio test when Pete's not here. We'll have no one here. It'll be lunchtime. And then we'll make her come down to test that mic, and you guys can just have a chat.
Monique, we're having issues with this the microphone system, and Dean has to be there,
Yeah.
and nobody else here can sit in here.
I would love to do that.
Or you maybe can you throw a is she a competitive person? Can you throw a challenge to her?
No.
She is.
She's competitive.
Well, maybe you can challenge her on somehow, like make it
Well,
legit.
no,
so
the
then-
best way to do it, say, Monique, would you mind coming to the podcast set, please? We've got some issues with some of the equipment. And I know that if I just ask you for the budget to upgrade, you're going to yell at me. So
bring
come
some money
in.
into
I
it,
want
yeah?
you to sit down and I
yeah,
want you
yeah.
to listen. Let's talk for a bit.
And
'cause
hear the
problem,
difference,
The problem
yeah.
only comes up periodically. It's not all the
Yeah,
time.
yeah.
And so
And it
I
could be
need
on
you to sit
either
here.
microphone.
Yeah. And so we need to talk. And
it
then
could
eventually.
be a $1,000 upgrade or something. We might need that, and she's gonna say we don't need this goddamn mic upgrade. She's gonna.
I love it.
Oh
We
yeah,
gotta do it.
I like that.
Okay.
I
Dean,
like that.
mark it
You
down,
got to make
buddy.
it a money. You got to make a company spend in
And then
there.
we'll finally
and
have
then,
the
but
Countess.
I'll tell you what, you're going to need a private page for her. But when you're going to hear from her, it ain't going to be public. I'll tell you that right now. There's your subscription base right there. The Monique episodes. It's called Fishing Canada, the Monique episodes.
Boy.
Oh, man, I'll pay for that shit. Trust you. That's good stuff.
Speaking of which, Conservation Corner, brought to you by...
Speaking of which, I love it.
Brought to you by the Invasive Species Centre. Asian Carp Information Session is upon us, is it not, Dean? Or how's this working?
How's that?
It's
pretty
upon
close.
us. It's upon us.
It's
It
upon
might
us.
be next week.
January 28th.
It might be this week.
All right. Because
You
I don't have any more information other than that here, but
You have
Your old
multiple
paper
pieces of
there above
paper.
you there, above and beyond.
right there. Thank you very much.
Our grass carp piece.
It's all about grass carp and the potential to impact. In fact, we're going to hear from a professor coming up shortly in the program that's going to talk to us about another invasive species, which happened years ago, and we just assumed it was okay, and that is the zebra mussel. Well, it's rearing its ugly head now some 2 or 3 decades later. And,
Yeah.
But at the time, we were all concerned about it. I remember it was like the world
Oh
was
my
coming to
God!
an end.
Remember when that first came in? When they first came in,
And then we kind of...
and our lakes changed,
everything
and the whole
changed, right?
dynamics of everything changed. And then, like you say, we got complacent with it.
Yeah,
And,
we got
you
comfortable.
know what? Well, let's deal with it in a fishing aspect. We never thought anything else of it.
And now 30 years later, it's
Wait till
rearing
you
its
hear
ugly
it
head,
in
right?
the show later on.
All the more reason why we need to be on top of things. The grass carp is now the potential threat, and it's going to have a negative impact on all of us.
It could be a
that enjoy
larger
fishing.
threat than zebras, right? Zebras and quaggas.
I think so.
It's going to be a larger.
I
Yeah,
think so.
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely.
So if you're in the area, the Windsor Sportsman Club in Windsor, Ontario area, I would suggest that you take the time, January 28th, 6 to 9 p.m., drop down to the Windsor Sportsman's Club. It's free of charge. Some great people will be there. Dean, did I understand? Are you going to be there?
I'll be there.
All right. And they will be talking to you about this grass carp invasion. And like I said, a lot of workshops will be going on. A lot of government people will be there. Some regular folks who just have a vested interest in our fishery will be there talking to you. There's Q&A sessions going on. Complimentary food and refreshments.
Come on now.
I like that. It's always
Not
nice.
sure what
right?
that will consist of, but they're
Oh, the last one we went to was pretty damn
was
good.
damn good, and it was
yeah.
complimentary. In fact, the
Homemade
local ladies prepared a
That's
wonderful feast for us.
It was really good.
And if you do, you also have a chance to win a Yeti backpack.
Oh my.
A cooler backpack valued at 400 buckaroos. How
Nice
can you go wrong?
price. Nice price. I'd like to see them do a few more of these. It'd be nice to get them in different areas, right? Windsor, we did the one in Belleville. Maybe we could do one in the GTA. That'd be a nice little
That would be wonderful.
touch like that. Maybe they go farther
Why
east.
do they
you know?
go so far from
Yeah, that's quite
the Mecca, the hub,
They
the
went from
center?
east to west. Like that is the furthest west in Windsor, and then
Well, we
Belleville is a bit east. We need to get one central.
Dean, you've got it in there. You've got people there.
I'll make a suggestion.
Make us
I'll do Oshawa next year.
Yeah,
Yeah, I think
that'd
Oshawa
be
bigger. There's
great.
got to be
Makes
some
sense.
kind of a little venue here we could sneak into.
But for now, it's Windsor Sportsman
our back
Club,
room there.
January 28th, 6 to 9 p.m. Be there, be square.
What about our back room?
Come
we could
on
do one
now.
right in there, couldn't we?
Yeah, I'd love to do
That'd
that.
be awesome. Open the doors up, smoke some cigars, and
There you go. Hey, you got to always bring us back to that.
well, you know, a guy's got to do what a guy's got to do.
In the news, Mr. Bowman.
In the news. Okay, let me switch my page here, Angelo. Okay, BASS gets rid of co-angler program. So
What's that?
here, as fishing tournaments evolved years ago, BASS, Bass Angler Sportsman Society, actually did this. They got to a point where they had 2 people in a bass boat fishing in the tournament, and at first, it was they called it an angler, a co-angler, and what had happened there was a boater, non-boaters, but it really started as. And the guy so Angelo owns a boat, and he's fishing this tournament, and they want to put somebody in the back of Angelo's boat. Well,
Because
how
they
do you
don't
choose
trust
that
me. 'Cause
person?
they don't trust me? Or?
Well, that's part of it. That was
Okay.
part of keeping things honest.
Yeah.
And then they choose from a pool of people that didn't have boats. So let's just say it was a nice perfect number, 50 and 50, just as a number like that. So Pete has no boat. They pull Pete Bowman's name out of the hat. Pete, you fish with Angelo for this day.
We'd have
Tomorrow
fun.
change.
That would be fun.
I know.
wouldn't
It'd be nice to fish together for once.
it?
Wouldn't
This
it?
would be a riot.
And then, so that's the way it started like that. And then it evolved to pro-ams. There's a professional on the boat, and an amateur gets chosen. But those guys, by the way, Ange and I were fishing against each other
On the same boat.
on the same boat. right? The advantage goes to the guy running the boat because he has a little bit of angles. In a pro-am event, professional angler and Pete Bowman, the amateur, gets on the boat, and we can fish either for the team, our team, or they have an amateur on that. Go ahead.
I remember years ago, my first experience at that was out of Clayton, New York.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, you did.
And I was
you guys did the BSS, you and Reno, didn't you?
Yeah, I think I was a non-boater for one. I did two of them, a non-boater and a boater.
Really? I would have never thought you'd have been a non-boater, right? Like,
yeah.
I would have thought you'd have.
I remember that one.
Huh.
That guy, boy, he put on a clinic.
Oh,
I
yeah?
can't remember his name, but he put on a clinic because in that case,
I'll
we
bet
were
you.
competitors on his boat.
I'll bet you were both boaters, but you had to choose a boat.
Maybe that was it. I
Sometimes
can't
you have to do
remember.
that. So you say, you know what, we'll go with your boat. I got half a day up front. You get a half a day
I
up
was
front.
very naive, though. I got to tell you,
Oh, yeah?
I because up until that point, the only tournaments I had fished were team tournaments, right?
right.
And so you're working two guys on the boat. You're very much together, and it's kind of a team thing. And boy, did I have a wake up call that day!
Really?
Holy,
He was whacking 'em?
moly! Well,
Did he
first of
backboat you?
all, he backboated me.
Yeah.
First of all.
Back boat, just everybody knows, just quickly, Angelo's running the boat. He's in the front of that boat right there. He's fishing all the good water and keeping me away from it because I have to stay in the back of the boat. So I can't really I got to cast around him in a boomerang cast, and I can't do it.
And
So
back then, it was prior to, it could have been the year before, or a couple of years before, it was prior to having the 50-50 rule. Where I believe a couple of years later they went, because this became such a problem, they said, okay, whoa. Okay, you got to split the time on the front of the boat.
That's right.
50-50. At this point, it was not 50-50.
Okay.
And I was exiled to the back of the boat.
If you were both boaters, you flipped the coin and got his, and Angelo, you lose. In other words, yeah.
And I learned a lot about competitive bass fishing on that event, let me tell
Wow.
you. And it was a fortune. It was expensive. I remember back,
Yeah.
and I'm talking early to mid 80s, and it was like $600 US for me to be there.
Wow.
My entry fee
To get backboated.
to get backboated.
Oh, I can see you being
And
pissed
this
off
guy
for sure.
just put on a clinic for me.
Largemouth or smallmouth? Quickly.
Largemouth.
Wow.
Largemouth. And the most humiliating part of it all, I'll never forget. It's funny how some things I can't remember what happened this morning.
Right.
But I can remember this incident, which happened 40 years ago. Mm-hmm. I finally got the courage up, not because he had said I couldn't, but he was very intimidating. Big, scruffy Texan. And I finally got the courage up because he was whacking these fish like crazy, right? I finally got the courage to cast one over his head.
Oh, boy. How would that go?
Over his head. And so I put this we were throwing big 3/4 ounce spinnerbaits in off-colored water, big wacky blades, loud splashing shit. So I finally threw it over because I got pissed off.
And so you should have, but
You know?
yeah.
I threw it over his head, and I'm bringing it back to the boat, and I'm dragging it up beside. He's at the nose of the boat, and so I'm pulling this spinnerbait back to me like that, exactly. And right at about him, boom! I get smacked with this great big largemouth, and I pull it back. Oh shit! I didn't even realize, but in that split second, he had dropped a jig in. Like immediately, and he caught an 8-pound, 7-pound and change out of
Bayfield Bay?
Bayfield Bay.
Come on. So he went in behind that fish
7.2,
you had?
7.2. Yeah, he caught that fish, and he got it to the boat, and he was shaking it. His boy, I gotta apologize. I wouldn't normally do that. He said,
Oh, God.
so that was my experience at co-angling, and needless to say, I stayed away from it. But then a couple of years later, they changed it up so that you had a 50-50 thing. You know, so if you lose your coin flip, you're at the back of the boat, even on your own boat,
Right.
for the first half of the day, and then you get the boat the second half of the day, which kind
Interesting.
of evened it out a little bit, although obviously early day versus late time.
Yeah.
You know.
And it was this is in the Bassmaster Opens, and this was last year. So they ran a co-angler, but it wasn't like it was I think the co-anglers are all against each other. So the elites, the highest end, where our Canadian boys are in like that. They are just you on the boat fishing, and that is it.
Right.
The cameraman, judge, or whatever, referee, depending on which
Scrutineer,
lake,
right?
scrutineer, whatever.
Yeah.
But Usually the Camarena is group, but these opens is the next level down from the elites. So this is where the guys qualify for the elites, guys and girls, if it happens. And they've always had this co-angler program up until COVID came in. And then all of a sudden they had to stop. Oh, we got to have individual people on the boat and all that. And they've never gotten back to it. And now they were talking to the anglers. And essentially a lot of the anglers are saying, well, because a lot of times they don't fill up the field with co-anglers, right? So a co-angler could honestly help you a lot of times in your boat. So some guys are running a pro in the front and a co-angler in the back, and other boats there's not enough, so it's just a pro in the front, right? So there's an uneven amount. It's not equal, no matter what level that person is in the back. So in the back of the boat, as you know, sometimes that guy starts firing out a Senko, and all of a sudden crack, 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 and he starts whacking them. That's help to you, right?
For sure.
So it gives an uneven advantage. So they've decided that they're going to drop the co-angler thing and just go as just like the elites. Going to be straight up. Let's go. And then these co-anglers now can go in through the national, what is it called? There's it's written in here, the Opens, the nation qualifiers. So these co-anglers can now go into another tournament, a series down from that.
So, I mean, back in the day, one of the reasons that this whole thing was made available was that co-anglers generally they were entry-level people who didn't have the means or the will to spend the money to buy a boat, but they wanted to experience that
I think it still is to that.
And
it is.
The prize a lot of the time is a boat.
It is.
Yeah.
So, which was kind of cool, because I think there have been anglers who have went from the co-angler program to the elites with like the boat they win. I'm pretty sure there's been a couple who have done
really?
that. Yeah.
I don't know about that. That'd be quite a
So what happens
stone.
now? So by eliminating this,
it's just almost the same as the elites, I believe. I think it's just the pro angler in the front.
but I'm thinking more
like
for
Cooper Glant got in through I think they all did. All the guys did. But Cooper's a perfect example is that he did the Opens, and then he won a tournament in the Opens, which got him into the elites immediately. And I don't know. And they went through the nationals to the nations at first, but it's just a changed way. It was all because of COVID, because they used to do it all the time in the Opens. The angler,
I'm thinking
co-angler.
more for the co-angler, say a youngster who wants that experience.
Ripping them off. You're thinking like, wow, damn. And
so what are they doing to replace that?
They're giving them these.
But he still has to come up with a boat.
I think they can do that with a boat or without a boat. I'm not sure how that one works. I'm not sure about that, but
So
they
there
do give
still
them a
is an
chance. There is an
opportunity.
opportunity for them to go from the qualifiers to the Opens to the elites eventually, I believe. I'm not sure how they do it in the nations, but
Interesting.
there is a way.
And that story is up on fishingcanada.com, Dean?
Yep.
Good. I want to read it. I want to get more information on that.
You'll see it.
Perfect. Now, the fan question of the week. Brought to you by fishfindermounts.com.
Come on now.
Fishfindermounts.com.
Let's see the question mark there. Okay. Good.
See the question
Good.
mark?
Yep.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm getting it now. I'm on it.
You figured
I'm on
it
it.
out now. So what's happening now, fishfindermounts.com is sponsoring this segment. And this is the segment where if you submit a question, Dean, correct me if I'm wrong at any time, you can jump in, please. If you submit a question on YouTube and it ends with a question mark,
Right.
And are subscribed.
you select it, select it from somebody who has subscribed on YouTube.
Yep.
You select it. You present it to us here live on the show. We have not seen this question in advance.
Right.
Because we don't want any opportunity to... What?
Dean's got the best job in the world. I just says, yep. Yep.
And we read it, and if we're moved by the question, if we're touched by the question, if we believe that there was an effort put into the question, then we will say yay or nay to the $100.
Yep.
Okay. So I got it.
And Jim is a subscribed.
He's a long time subscriber.
Okay. Perfect.
And I thought this question really tied in.
And you know this because why again? Why do you know he's a subscriber?
He comments on every video we ever do. Oh.
When you look at it, it says subscribe or subscribed. They put an ED in there when that little. When you're up there, it shows subscribe.
Okay, so
yourself.
I'm curious. You say that most people watching this right now are not subscribed?
70% of people who watch our podcast are not subscribed.
Okay. You have to explain this to me.
Okay.
You have to explain this to me. Are we We're not charging for this, right?
No.
We're not we said that already. We've established
We're actually
that
giving for this sometime, with this little prize package at the end here now and then.
So why would somebody not be subscribed?
It's one extra button, and people just don't do it. I honestly, when I watch YouTube, I don't always do it.
It's like it's a very natural thing. I'm the same as Dean. Is that I got all these fishing videos that I'll watch. Very few I'll subscribe to, and I don't know why. I think it's just because I might not go back to them. If it's a real interest to me, I'll subscribe because I want the notification that a new one came in or whatever. But
what would constitute of real interest to me?
To you or me?
To you, to anybody. At what point is something of real interest to you?
I don't know. I mean, I don't know. I honestly,
What's the drama account we like?
Drumeo.
Yeah, like them. I watch every one of their videos. I am not subscribed, and I don't know why.
Yeah, and I watched, Dean and I compared notes about them, and I'm not subscribed.
And why are you not subscribed?
I don't know.
You just don't do it. Sometimes you just
I
don't
just
do
watch it and I close it, and then
I've got my list of subscriptions is long. I have a lot of subscriptions.
I'm asking these questions because, as you
know,
know,
yeah,
I
of
don't
course.
live in that world,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So, wherever it is you two guys both go to, there you're comparing
It's
notes.
called YouTube.
No, the show, the
That show, Drumeo.
Dummy. Okay.
On YouTube.
So you watch it on a regular basis?
No, I don't. But if I see a little throw up there, somebody has, hey, Drumeo, and it's a certain drummer on there, I might check that out.
Is there one that you listen to religiously?
That I'm not subscribed to?
Yes.
No. Just if the feed comes up and I see it, it's a reminder, because there's an algorithm, right? Even YouTube is like when you were talking about this cup right here today, and all of a sudden, why is that on my phone now? What the hell? They get you. So if you watch a couple of the videos, they start feeding you that towards that stuff, and then maybe you'll subscribe to it. You know what I mean?
But if I want, for example, if there is a good fishing site, example, that I value, that I watch,
you subscribe. Why wouldn't you?
I'm trying to think, why wouldn't I?
Yeah, I know. You just don't. I don't know.
Because it helps them, right?
Sure it does. It helps you too.
It helps you.
They throw you every episode. Hey, Ange, guess what? Episode 158 here. 159.
Right, because I might be distracted.
Exactly.
Or maybe busy.
You got too many other things going on.
Right. I'm gonna go subscribe to Drumeo now.
Well, you should. If you value the time you spend with them.
Yeah, I should be. You're right.
And they're not charging you for this, Dean.
You'd like that, by the way.
Then
Drumeo.
why would you not say, hey, you know what? I can push that button for these guys. I mean, there they are. They don't know me from Adam, and yet they go to all this trouble producing this wonderful product that I'm entertained with, that I genuinely am connected to.
Yeah, you're right.
What's it going to cost me to push the button?
No, it's true.
Yep.
So true.
That I don't. Anyways, if you are, for whatever reason, listening to this and you're not subscribed, you may have your own reasons that we haven't touched here. Do me a favor personally, like just for me, or for Pete, because he's benevolent. Push the button.
You love that word, don't you? Benevolent.
I love that word.
Whenever you learned that word, it was just like, okay, I have to use this daily, weekly, monthly.
I love that word. It was in conjunction with the Franciscan monks. So I just love that word. But do me a favor, personally. Push, right now, stop what you're doing and just reach down, somewhere down there on the screen.
Or give Ange a reach around.
Give me a reach around. That's fine, too.
There.
That's cool.
And hit that
just
button.
Push the button for me. Let's change things today. Let's push the button, please. Thank you. Anyways, co-anglers.
I don't even know where the hell we were. We're on to the fan question now. Co-anglers are gone. That was the other thing.
What is the fan question today, Mr. Bowman?
And that's brought to us by fishfindermouse.com. Now, you've already said all this, but I'm going to say it again. It's a fan question.
Hey, we got a new board with that.
And that's Jim Lemon. No, it's all Jim Lemon 1. So Jim Lemon.
You put his name up and everything.
Yeah, I like that.
That's
a nice.
Wow, but we don't know if he's qualified yet, though.
No, not yet.
Well, no, we don't know. He's eligible because he's subscribed.
But we went to the expense of putting his name up on the screen.
Yeah, but Dean said that Jim has been a long-time viewer, subscriber. He's the man for us. Like, he's the man for us, right?
Carry on, excuse me.
So while you're down there, what are you doing? Crying out loud. So Jim is worthy of putting his name up there. Jim, I'm going to say your name again. Jim Lemon. Lemon. That's a hard one to do 5 times in a row, just to give him lots of
Boy,
fame.
they're a pair of beauties, huh?
What about the fish?
The fish are okay. I mean, they're a little dark, but they're beauties.
That was a great shoot. That was one hell of a shoot. So much fun out there, and that was a great doubleheader for
And
sure.
that was with Twitch baits. Yeah, right?
Yozuri.
Yozuri
Just to let
Twitch
everybody
baits.
know. Yes. And
By the way, do you know we're
3DB.
not on their website? Sorry to interrupt, folks, but this is I just
Sorry, Jim.
remembered.
We'll
I
get
keep-
back to you there. We'll
I
be
just
right
keep
back.
forgetting. So I got a call from first. I got a text message from a good friend of ours, and it was like one of those. Oh my God, are you guys not with Yozuri anymore? Question mark? Question mark?
Oh boy. Oh boy.
And I said, well, last time I looked, we were. Why? And then he phones me. Well, I was just on their site to see what's up for new, and you're not on their site anymore. I said, well, I don't know that we were on their site to start with.
That's a good
Well,
point.
they got all of their
staff.
pro staff and media partners and all that, and you guys aren't there.
Interesting.
And I said, well, I thought we were at some point.
Kind of should be, I would think.
Or he says you should be. I guess you should be, were his comments. Anyways, I thought we should look
You
into
know what?
that.
I wonder now if we went to Princecraft, would we be on Princecraft's site? This brings out a great question. I know the one we are on is Garmin. You have to dig deep into there, but in their staff, Garmin has us on
Do
there.
we
so
do
it's
a
okay.
shitty job of marketing ourselves, you think?
Well,
I
would
personally, I think we do.
I would think that a Princecraft, in their world, I mean, yeah, we do a great job of talking their name. They should say, holy crap, there's an opportunity of a lifetime. Let's put Ange and Pete up there in our nice.
Speaking of which, we're going to be
expedition.
with them in a couple of weeks
Correct.
at the
Mundo.
boat show
Well,
in
it
their
depends
booth.
on when this.
Well, he said this is going out next week,
Yeah,
so I'm
so there you
assuming
go.
the week after.
Yeah.
We'll be at the
We
Toronto
could ask them if
boat
we're
show.
on their website. Well, no, we'll look into it and then we'll find out and we'll ask them why we're not on their website if we're not. And if we are, we'll just say thanks, Mr. Prince.
Can we look into Yozuri, Dean, and see why we're
Yozuri, we're not there for sure. I just checked.
Yeah.
We're not a pro staff.
You
No,
look at,
but they
you
also
look at
have
Garmin,
media.
you'll see us
They
there.
also have media people there.
You look at Garmin, you'll see us on that one.
Yeah.
But, interesting. We should be all
don't
of
know.
our partners. We should be Ontario Tourism. We're in there. It's deep in there, but we are in there.
They deep.
Yeah,
How
they
come
dig us
we're
deep in there,
How
right?
come we're
Well,
deep?
look at our faces. We got faces
Yeah,
for
true.
radio. You know.
I don't know. I don't mind the look of that.
Yeah, true enough.
You know,
You even got your Ontario hat on there, and I got my
do, too.
Princecraft hat on
I
there.
do too.
We're not on the Princecraft site either.
No, I didn't think so. Mercury, I know we're not in the Mercury site. Anyways, the question from
Jim Lemon.
Jim Lemon. Okay. As our environment keeps changing, be it global warming or invasive species, brackets, zebra mussels. Ooh, nice,
Ooh,
nice.
That's
nice.
why
Wonder if
he's
Dean-
on. I got
wonder if
you,
Dean
Dean.
put that in there, though. I don't know.
see what you're doing, Dean.
Yeah.
Okay, I got it.
Have
All right.
you had to adapt your angling methods to be successful for bass or walleye? Respectfully, Jim Lemon. That's a question.
So as the environment changes,
So global warming or zebra mussels, we'll use those two as
you had
examples
to
because they're
adapt your
perfect
angling
examples.
methods to be successful. Well,
For
yeah,
sure.
yeah,
For sure.
like big time. For sure.
So zebra mussels, I'll use Lake Ontario because he said bass and walleye. I use Lake Ontario smallmouth for this, in the sense that back in the day we used to be able to pretty much throw whatever we wanted, wherever we wanted, and with anything we wanted, and we'll look at line size maybe, and it was pretty effective. Now that the zebra mussels have come in, the water is cleaned up that much more, and it is now gin clear. Let's say we're fishing early opening week smallmouth. The water's gin clear, they're shallow still. When they get spooked up a bit or whatever reason, now they can really see the line. So you're thinking, okay, well, I got to downsize from 8 pound. Now I got to go down to 6 pound. Now your problem with that 6 pound line is if you're running a bait like a jig, a tube jig, a Ned rig or anything like that, you get that anywhere close to the bottom, you're going to break off so many times because of the zebra mussels because they're so sharp. The edges of the mussel are so sharp.
So it's a
that it'll-
double-edged sword.
It's bizarre.
Zebra mussels caused you to downsize your line because of filtering the water, making
and
it
the
clear.
fish can see your line better.
But
They're gonna
other
cut your
side,
line.
they're also going to cut your line
Exactly.
because they made you
Exactly.
downsize.
Exactly.
Wow,
So-
a
Protecting
double
the
whammy.
fish.
So what's that do?
They're protecting the fish.
Protecting the fish.
protecting the
So
fish,
my
yeah.
my solution when I'm out fishing like that is piss on that. I'm not using 6-pound line because I know it is useless out there in that environment. Maybe in other places, when you're running a spy bait or something like that, absolutely you can do that kind of stuff. But I suck it up, and I'll go to a 10-pound line, and I'll say, you know what? I'm not going to catch the 100 fish that everybody are going to catch using 6-pound line, but I might catch 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 big 5-pounders with that 10-pound line, because there's always a biter or two in the group, right? You run 10-pound fluorocarbon leader, Yozuri leader, we use super floral. You're going to get some fish on that. So I actually upsize it to 10 or 12, and at least then you have a chance. It's going to get nicked, but you might not break it off. So that's one instance for me in the Lake Ontario thing that I've had to change.
The other one, you say global warming. Well, one of the effects of global warming obviously is water temperature. And that's changed our fishing tremendously, because water temperature is almost everything in our day-to-day fishing lives. So we've had to change location based on temperature.
Absolutely.
And every year it seems like we're, dropping a degree or two within our fishing environment, which also is affecting moving us. I have a funny story about that where people might not change, because it's really important. I mean, this is a great question, Jim, but you also open up a whole lot of other things here that we need to comment on, because anglers who aren't changing are probably not catching.
Right.
Absolutely. And that's the key here.
Absolutely.
And it reminds me of a time I was on an advisory board, Bay of Quinte, walleye, and the fishery was in apparent trouble, and they wanted to know whether they needed to have a total moratorium on walleye fishing at the time. So they brought in a bunch of us to sit with the scientists and go over their work and notes and see if there's something that was obvious or missing, and or something that we could suggest that might help them. And lo and behold, after I think 6 weeks, almost 2 months, we came up with the fact that they hadn't made any changes. And the changes were required because this was at the beginning of the zebra mussel invasion, and their methodology had not changed with the clearing of the water. So they were dropping their nets. The nets are catch nets where they would get samples of fish in order to give them an idea of the density of the population. So, I don't even remember what the formula was, but if there was 5 fish in the net every day, that means that there's actually 500 fish in this acre of water type thing. Anyways, throughout that previous year, when the water had cleared up, they still were dropping their nets in the same location and catching fewer fish. Hence, the population is in trouble. There's less fish here than there were last year. And through talking with them about this, we discovered that the problem was with the water clearing, the fish had moved a little bit farther offshore from where their nets were being dropped. And in fact, there were not the same number of walleye, but the population had actually exploded without them knowing, because they hadn't adapted to where the sampling was being done.
They didn't realize, just like the anglers.
As
they did
simple
the
as
same
that,
things.
right? Now think of that as applying to an angler. The angler goes back to the same place over and over again, oblivious to any changes that may be happening, especially temperature.
Yeah, they might that 2 or 3 degrees. They don't even. That's nothing. I don't.
It's no big deal. I've caught them. My dad caught them here. I caught them here. My neighbor's been catching them here for years. Why they're not here anymore? Well, that's because probably. I mean, I'm not downplaying the fact that there may be a problem with that fishery in that particular spot, because who knows? But 9 times out of 10, it's just a matter of not adapting and not making those changes, right?
And another thing when he's saying being successful with bass in particular, with largemouth bass in particular now, with this global warming, I'm fishing into the end of November for largemouth bass in an hour and a half north of here. So I got these lakes that would normally 20 years ago be stiff frozen. I mean, they would be so frozen.
Me?
I like that.
There's a
frozen.
first.
And that you'd be ice fishing at that time, or close to it. Maybe not ice fishing, but you'd be close to it. Well, with bass season still being open, back then bass season was open and the ice was over the lake, so it was kind of useless because most guys wouldn't ice fish for bass. They'd ice fish for walleye, whatever else. They just didn't do that. Now, man, we are fishing bass right up to the ice way later in the year. So it's changed. It's changed our methodology. It's helped us, the guys that are doing it, and learning more about cold water fishing. Waters in the 50s, the 40s, and then even in 39 degrees water. Which I never did before at that late. So it's something else there. It's changed the world for sure. The fishing world.
Jim, needless to say, you totally engaged us with this question. So I would like to submit. Of course, my partner will have to agree. I would like to submit that you get the $100.
Give me a hell yeah!
High five,
coupon.
Jimmy.
There you go.
got
You
her,
got
buddy.
it too.
That's a good one. That's a whole podcast right there, boys. We could go on and on and on about that one, right?
If you'd like to win 100 buckaroos from the fishingcanada.com site, store, whatever you want to call it, you too can do it by submitting a question on YouTube as a subscriber.
YouTube on YouTube.
As a subscriber of our YouTube channel, and submit it. Dean will go through them, present us with what he thinks we will, because he knows us pretty good, what he thinks we're apt to give him the thumbs up on.
He's giving us a bunch of gimmies right now, boy. We're going to go broke if we keep skipping these good questions like this. You know what I mean?
The humble goldfish, everyone's favorite aquatic pet. It's small, easy to care for. What's there not to love?
Even the cat may be mesmerized by the color and movements of your aquarium friends. Goldfish are great at home, but don't let them loose.
Releasing goldfish or other domestic aquatic pets or plants into natural environments is harmful to both your pet and the planet.
Goldfish disrupt ecosystems by outcompeting native species for food and resources in degraded habitats. They contribute to algae blooms, they kill aquatic wildlife, and pass viruses and diseases contracted in aquariums to wild fish.
They could even live up to 40 years and grow as big as a football. Anglers, this is where you come in. If you find a goldfish at your local fishing spot, report it to the Invading Species Hotline or go online to eddmaps.com.
Remember to never dump your live bait into the water and risk spreading other aquatic invaders. Keep our lakes free from invaders and don't let them loose.
All right, next segment brought to you by Sail, the outdoor superstore. I used to call them that. I guess that would still be appropriate.
I think they're very super. I like them.
Home to all good things outdoors. If you're into fishing, ice fishing especially right now.
Right
which,
about now would be...
most of us would be doing. Rods, reels, tackle, clothing, and much more. Head on over to a store near you. If you don't have a store near you, obviously go to sail.ca. That's sail.ca. They have some lingering... ongoing discounts.
Forever
right now,
going.
Up to
Seems
60% off on some items. So check them out.
They've always got great deals going on there. Always.
That's what I like about,
there you go.
I mean, we're fortunate. We've got one right here pretty much in the neighborhood.
I love it. I can't stay away.
And you just walk in just because.
I know.
You just
have
go,
to go
and check
there.
it
Yeah.
out. So
Yeah,
anyways. Our main segment, as I said at the top of the program, a very interesting subject that first made its way onto our table here a few months ago. And we did an episode where it was brought up and we were not aware of
Was
it.
that
And
149? Is that the one, Dean?
episode 149, I think.
Is that
Dean was
correct?
saying.
That's the one.
That's the one. Making coarse fish cool with Tyler Winter. So if anybody wants to listen to that.
And the subject was about zebra mussels, and one of the byproducts of zebra mussels that we're now discovering is an increased level of mercury within certain species of fish, walleye and perch in particular. So we brought on the person who can answer all of those questions that we had that had no answers. Her name is Dr. Gretchen Hansen, and she is assistant professor at the University of Minnesota. Welcome to the program, Gretchen.
Thanks for having me.
First,
Let me go. You're a fisheries ecologist? Is that what you would be called? Or what would your title be?
Yeah, that sounds right.
Okay. Love
I'm a professor at the University of Minnesota
Okay.
in fisheries. Yeah.
First of all, I have to ask you, do you fish at all? Like, do you have a vested interest in this at all?
Yeah, I fish some. I'm not as avid of an angler as my husband or some other people, but I grew up visiting lakes. My family has a cabin on a lake and kind of grew up loving lakes in the Northwoods.
Nice.
So have a pretty vested interest in that.
Nice.
Her husband's a lucky man. Imagine that.
kidding.
If your wife was wow, that's a good deal right there.
And I'm assuming there was consumption involved of some of those
For
fish?
sure.
Okay.
Yes, definitely.
All right. Just wanted to make sure that we understood that completely.
Yeah, Gretchen doesn't eat fish. No, I'm a fishery guy. I wouldn't eat that stuff. You kidding me?
No, I do. I eat fish for sure.
Good.
So the study that we're alluding to is, of course, the fact that you and your team have discovered that areas that have high levels of zebra mussels and have walleye and perch, for some strange reason that we're about to find out, there's a high level of mercury content within that particular fish. Tell us about that. Start from the top and let us know.
Can I ask a question right off the hop? Can you explain mercury first to us?
Good.
The mercury that it gets in these fish, and then we'll go from there?
Yes, that's a tall order because
Okay.
the factors that influence how much mercury end up in fish are complicated. And I'm not a chemist, so I will try to explain it as best I can. So the mercury that ends up in fish is influenced by lots of different things. One of them is how much mercury is just on the landscape. A lot of that comes from, it's deposited from the atmosphere from human-caused industry, coal plants, things like that. There's also natural sources of mercury on the landscape from the weathering of rocks and stuff like that. So when it's on the land, then it washes into the water. Various things about the watershed influence how much of it kind of gets there into the lake. And then once it's in the lake, it has to be made into a form that is available for organisms to kind of assimilate into their bodies. That's called methylmercury. That's the kind that is a neurotoxin to humans. And so there's a number of processes that influence how much of that mercury is kind of available for organisms to take up. And then once it's in those organisms, like in insects or crayfish or little tiny things, then the fish eat them and it accumulates in their bodies over time.
Okay.
At the end of the day, we've always heard about, the fear of mercury contamination in fish and consumption. High levels of consumption would be harmful to humans. But what does it actually do to us? How does it manifest itself into this big, ugly, whatever it is, if we consume too much mercury?
Yeah, so mercury is a neurotoxin, so it affects our brains. It is particularly problematic for developing brains like children and unborn fetuses. So there are, again, a large number of very smart people who do the work to say how much mercury can we consume and kind of avoid any negative problems. And those consumption advisories are stricter for kids and for women who might be of childbearing age than for men and older people. And it can affect adults too at high loads. It can affect your brain function, but that's at pretty high levels. The bigger concern is for developing brains.
It's always been around too. I remember, Ange, 40 years ago on Lake Ontario, I used to hear of mercury, and I think it was a PCBs or something like that, or something.
But mercury was the big thing.
It was the big one. It's always been around. So,
yeah.
So you're making it sound to us, anyways, that adult males would be the least likely to be affected by high levels of merc. I just want to get this straight because I know we're going to get inundated with questions after this episode.
Right. You probably have a lot of adult males in your audience.
Exactly.
So they're saying, yes, I'm okay.
Right.
Yeah, eat them up, boys. Let's go.
I would say it's not that they are less likely to be affected. It's just that the effects would happen at higher concentrations of mercury. Okay. And again, I am not a human health expert, but kind of the levels that are considered safe are higher for adult males than for kids or women of childbearing age.
Safe to assume then, in lakes that do not have zebra mussels, the likelihood of somebody being contaminated with mercury by eating one of the fish in that body of water is much less than it would be in the lakes that you have studied with high levels of zebra mussels. Is that correct?
I don't know that I would go so far as to make that kind of blanket statement that if a lake doesn't have zebra mussels, like, don't worry about it.
Right.
Like I said, there's lots of things that influence how much mercury gets into fish.
Right.
And zebra mussels are one of them.
Okay.
But like any study where you look at kind of patterns across a landscape, it's not to say that every lake that has zebra mussels has problematic mercury and every lake that doesn't have zebra mussels is fine. Right. That's not the case. It's more of, we see this pattern, this trend. It tends to be higher in these lakes that have zebra mussels, and we think we understand the pathway through which that's happening. So it's just another factor that's influencing how much mercury is in the fish.
Any other species other than walleye and perch that you studied, or were they the basically?
Yeah. So for this particular study that just got published, we only looked at walleye and yellow perch. We are doing quite a bit of follow-up research because of the significance of these results to look at other species. And those results suggest that things like northern pike are also influenced. So it's kind of a system-wide change that seems like it's playing out in other fish species as well. Those were just the two that were the focus of our original study.
All the good eating, white flaky
isn't
fish.
That wild?
Yeah,
That sounds that way. Just when we thought it was okay, and we have these discussions on a regular basis out in the field, just when we thought that we had successfully assimilated zebra mussels into our world and we found a place for them and everything was just nice. And now all of a sudden we find out, maybe not.
Okay, don't step on that thin ice yet. Gretchen, explain the effects of the zebra mussels with the mercury. There's a process that happens there, something that happens, right? What goes on?
Yeah. So like I said before, there's all these different processes happening in the lake. One of the things, so we think zebra mussels have kind of a 1-2 punch of how they're affecting mercury in fish. So number one, zebra mussels, when they're at high densities, they form like mats on the bottom of the lake, right? Dense mats. There's a bunch of algae growing on that. Underneath that, there's no oxygen in the sediments. And those are the conditions that lead to mercury being made into its bioavailable form. So the methyl mercury, the kind that can be taken up by organisms. So anoxic sediments means more mercury is, let's say, released from its inaccessible form into this accessible form. And then taken up by things like insects, bugs, whatever, little critters living on the bottom. And then at the same time, zebra mussels are kind of sucking a lot of the energy out of the water and concentrating it on the bottom and kind of near shore zone of lakes. And so fish tend to eat in that area more than they would in lakes that don't have zebra mussels. So they're kind of simultaneously making more mercury available and kind of drawing in fish to eat in that place where there's lots of mercury available.
Wow.
So
that's crazy.
Without that carpet that we now are finding out zebra mussels are responsible for, the mercury kind of lays dormant in the bedrock or in that sediment or wherever it lives, and it's perfectly fine. We coexist with it. The fish coexist with it, etc. But the minute we put a carpet on them, cut out oxygen, bacteria grows, and that's when we have a problem.
That's right. Yeah, bacteria that make it available live in those anoxic sediments.
But then, but the process would be if none of the little fish, insects, whatever, if they never touched into that layer, the bigger fish wouldn't be affected, would they? Because they're lifting it up from the bottom, correct? If they're eating it, and then the bigger fish are eating those fish? Is that the way it works?
Yeah, that's kind of the simple
the
version of it.
Term, yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Now, we have found ourselves numerous times in shallow water environments where we see kind of a sludgy, bottom cover.
Scum.
We call it
scummy.
scum. Would that have the same effect as what the zebra mussels are doing in deeper water?
Yeah, and the zebra mussels can be in that near shore zone
Right.
too, for sure. Yeah, I think, anything that makes the sediments not have oxygen in them, so some kind of scum where there'd be non-oxic sediments underneath it, could result in like the mercury being released. But that maybe wouldn't have the effect of like drawing things in to eat there in the same
Right.
way that zebra mussels do.
Right. Because our tendency is to not, we get away from those waters no matter what. When we're fishing hands, we go, well, if we're throwing a jig or something, well, I'm not throwing a jig in that stuff. The
Exactly.
fish can't even see it, sort of
Exactly.
thing like that. So we get right away from those zones. But
Now, this was not isolated to, just one or two bodies of water. In fact, the study, you studied 21 lakes in Minnesota area?
Yep, and about approximately half of them had zebra mussels and half did not. So we did try to do sort of a paired study. We weren't like tracking lakes over time of, here's what happened after zebra mussels got in.
right.
We did it more of a comparison of here's lakes that have zebra mussels, here's lakes that don't, and saw higher mercury in the lakes that did have zebra mussels.
All the lakes had mercury to an extent?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
And so the study proved without a shadow of a doubt that where you have zebra mussels, where you have water and mercury, the zebra mussels contributed to a higher level of mercury content within those species in those bodies of water versus bodies of water that do not have zebra mussels but have mercury.
Yeah, so like a good scientist, I don't know that I would ever say anything without a shadow of a doubt. But
Okay.
so we what I can say is we did measure higher mercury in the lakes that had zebra mussels in them compared to those that didn't. But that said, there was variability among the lakes. We had some lakes without zebra mussels that had quite high mercury in their fish. And that's true in Ontario and kind of everywhere. There are places that do have quite really high mercury. And we had some lakes with zebra mussels where it wasn't that high. It's more of just like on average, lakes with zebra mussels had higher mercury.
Okay. Those lakes so a lake that doesn't have zebra mussels is high in mercury, and the fish have high mercury levels, means that the bait fish and the whole ecosystem, zooplankton, is all taking in that mercury, I'm assuming, and then it's just going up through the food chain. Is that correct?
That's right. Yeah. And so fish that are higher on the food chain, like a big walleye or a northern pike, tend just in general have higher mercury and other contaminants because it accumulates in their bodies over time. And then we can also talk about, if you want, there's a very strong effect of the size and age of the fish. So older, bigger fish have more, again, because they just have more time to accumulate it in their muscle. Smaller, younger fish or fish that feed lower on trophic levels are less contaminated.
And does the mercury that gets into an older fish, would it ever recede a bit, or does it just keep going? It stays and gets higher and higher and never drops down the levels?
Yeah, we say bioaccumulates over time. Just kind of builds up in the muscle tissue as they get older.
Wow.
So you found the problem. You found the net results of the problem. Is there a solution? Is there something you guys maybe are looking at as a possible solution? Because, I don't know about your area, but zebra mussels are pretty much throughout the southern part of this province in all of our watershed. So this could become a serious issue. Are there plans or are there studies going on now as to what can be done? Can we clean that coating off the bottom? I don't know. Is that even possible?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think from an invasive species perspective, you kind of alluded to this earlier. This is kind of an unexpected or a new impact of a species that's been around in this area for, several decades. And so I think it points to just the need for prevention, and just don't assume we understand how these new ecosystems are going to operate. When you have multiple stressors interacting, like invasive species and, contaminants on the landscape, they come together in a way that maybe we didn't expect in advance. So just kind of speaks to the importance of trying to prevent invasive species from spreading around. In terms of mitigating, getting it out, I don't have any solution for that. Like you said, mercury's been around for a long time, and it's been a human health concern for a long time. And we have done, as a society, quite a bit of work to reduce how much of it is being deposited out on the landscape by, regulating industry and things like that. So I would say keep doing that, but that there can also be these kind of unexpected interactions happening within lakes.
Do you have, Gretchen, do you have any idea? I know the Great Lakes, obviously everybody knows zebra mussels in there, but in Minnesota, for instance, is there a percentage of inland lakes that have zebra mussels versus don't? Do you have a grasp on that?
Yes, great question. So what we have found in Minnesota, at least, it's about 2% of lakes total, but Minnesota has a lot of lakes, not as many as Ontario.
Right.
Minnesota has a lot of lakes. It's about 2%. But if you look at lakes that have walleye in them and are managed for walleye, it's about 16%. So they're disproportionately invading lakes that have walleye and are managed for walleye and where people fish for walleye.
Wow.
And it's going up. We're still on the kind of exponential growth.
Right.
So,
And that'd be, I wonder if that's the non-clean boats going from bad water to bad water and introducing them, you know what I mean? Walleye guys, hey, there's walleye in that lake, let's go over there next. And they don't clean their boats off. It could be something like that, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's not too surprising to me that the walleye lakes are the most invaded. They're just the most popular lakes that people want to go to the most.
Exactly.
Do zebra mussels, is there something that we can pattern with them? Do they like certain things? Will they be prone to hang out in this part of a lake as opposed to that part of a lake?
Or even a lake to lake. Like maybe I don't like that lake, and I do like that lake.
Well,
maybe.
lake to lake, it's once they're in, they're in. But I'm thinking even within a body of water, is there an area that
where do they thrive best?
They hang out more than others?
Yeah, they tend to be in sort of the near shore-ish zone. I mean, not in the super deep bottom waters, but around like the perimeter of the lake.
Right.
And there are differences lake to lake too. There are some, there needs to be enough calcium and it's got to be the right temperature and all that stuff for them to survive. And I think we're still trying to work out like why in some places they get in and they actually don't get to really high numbers. They just kind of hang out in the background for a while. And so we're still interested in figuring that out. Why? What is it about those lakes? Right. They don't explode into high numbers.
Right. That'd be great if you could figure something out that you could introduce into the other lakes somehow. If it was, it wasn't going to be damaging. But is it the quagga mussel that lives in the deeper stuff? That's the one.
So those are in the Great Lakes and colonize much deeper into the.
Are they in any smaller lakes yet? Any inland lakes? Do you know?
Not in Minnesota. I think there's maybe one or two inland lakes in Michigan, like right off, like Michigan, where they are, but they haven't really spread.
Okay.
But interestingly, I don't know if you are interested in this, but this study on mercury was really inspired by studies in the Great Lakes that showed this effect of particularly quagga mussels doing the same thing, increasing mercury concentrations in lake trout over time, despite, lower inputs and lower deposition. We see lake trout mercury going up, and they've linked it to quagga and zebra mussels in the Great Lakes.
Concern now should be the consumption levels. The reason I say that is I think, as far as I know, the commercial harvesting of walleye and perch, for that matter, predominantly is in the Great Lakes and its tributaries. We don't have a commercial fishery from the Great White North. All of our commercial fishery is done from Great Lakes and near Great Lakes. So I would be very concerned now hearing this about the levels of and we don't test for mercury, right? As to my knowledge anyways, the consumption segment of our society that harvests fish and puts them on the shelf, they have to adhere to certain rules and regulations in terms of where it's caught and how it's treated and how it's packaged and accuracy and size and weight and description and all that. I don't think they do any testing for mercury levels in for example, the walleye that I'm currently purchasing at
wherever that's coming from, if it's coming from.
Nobody's measuring.
Most lakes have mercury. Gretchen was saying. So
this would be interesting to find out.
Like I think a good example would be Lake Erie for walleye and
that's-
perch.
yeah.
The two biggest food fish they have there. I don't know what between U.S. and Canada, how many fish per year are sold to the public, and
Billions of tons,
Yeah.
I bet you. Wow.
Yeah, so I'm not as familiar with Ontario, but I'm actually just looking it up right now. So in Minnesota, we do test. Commercial fisheries are a different beast, but a lot of people harvest their own fish through, recreational angling, right? So in Minnesota, we do test quite a large number of fish every year and issue lake-specific consumption advisories. I am nearly certain that Ontario would do the same thing.
For recreational anglers, right? People who are out
Correct.
harvesting
Yeah,
their own.
so-
But the bulk of the population that consumes walleye, for example, or pickerel, as some people call it up here, they probably have no connection to angling, and they're just, it's a consumable, right?
buying
It's
it in the store.
Buying it in the store. And it's
Yeah.
become so
There it is.
popular as of late in the mainstream, we'll call them big box grocery stores, to have walleye every day.
Yeah.
I'm just wondering
I
how
don't
many
know what's in
people,
that
they
thing,
have
yeah.
no idea. They're just consuming this stuff. Because it's not measured at that point, there's no
Right.
information going to the average consumer about the mercury levels. This might open some eyes. This
I'd also
study
like
might-
to
Yeah.
know. Well, sorry, Gretchen. I just want to say I'd also like to know on Gretchen's point, where she says that the Minnesota has some kind of a directory or something that tells people.
So do we.
How much? But do we?
Yes.
What do we have?
we do.
Oh, the Ontario
That
sport
book, that
fishing
one book?
Yeah.
Okay.
There's a website now.
Okay,
of
but
course.
what I'm saying, boys, is that really the average angler doesn't know anything about that. There needs to be more.
But the
known
average
to-
angler is more apt to get informed, right? As they
I
hear
don't-
programs.
I don't know about
the
that.
average
They,
guy?
they have no idea what mercury. They can't. They're like me. They can't spell mercury.
Wow.
You know what I mean?
That's-
You don't really.
But
you know what I mean? You're not thinking that. You're thinking, oh my God, I got my limit of walleye here, and I'm taking them home, and I'm eating them no matter what.
I'm not as worried about that guy. I'm more worried now about just the average household that consumes fish
That's what
on
I'm
a
saying.
regular basis.
There's no mercury levels that really pushed in front of anybody really. Not pushed. It's hidden in the background. You know what I mean? So you have to look it up. That's kind of scary too.
There's no disclaimer on at the grocery store level on fillets of fish.
Hell, you
There's
can
no
buy over your
disclaimer.
limit. You know what I mean?
Well, there is that too,
You
right?
can.
But there's no disclaimer saying that if you are a mother or expecting or child or whatever, do not consume, or there's nothing
That's
on
right.
the packaging.
You're
Nothing.
right.
Nothing at all.
Yeah. I mean, it is kind of put on the consumer, like so many foods, right? To know what's safe and what's not for different levels. There are quite a few guides for, I mean, this is not unique to a walleye by any means. There are a number of contaminant issues in a lot of fish that you can buy in the store at a restaurant. There are some like pretty slick guides of just sort of rules of thumb of, if you're a woman who might become pregnant, don't eat swordfish kind of thing, because they're super high in contaminants. And then kind of which fish are more safe, like how many meals a month to eat for different types of fish. But that is put on the consumer to educate themselves and learn about that for sure.
Yeah, the consumer is the same as the angler in our case, right? You would be, if you didn't go catch fish, you'd say you really need to go to that guide and say, okay, and then you have to find out where these fish were caught in order to know. And it's such a process.
And
like,
they're less apt
of course,
to be into that than an angler.
It's
An
going to be
angler
even
at
harder
least,
to figure out.
has
You know
got-
where it came from, number one.
yeah.
Right, that's the big one. But they'll get a
Wow.
walleye in Loblaw. You don't know where that came from. So.
Wow, that's crazy. That's
Gretchen,
nuts.
give the audience the numbers, the mercury levels in walleye and in perch, those percentages that you had written down here, because that's pretty astonishing too, kind of alarming.
The percent increase or the
higher mercury concentrations. So it's written on our scripts. I don't know if that was Dean's stuff or your stuff, or was that ours, Dean?
Yeah. So we found that in adult walleye, mercury was 72% higher in lakes with zebra mussels compared to lakes without, and in perch it was 157% higher.
That's huge. 157% higher. Like, wow.
Yeah.
Is there
So more
zebra
than
mussel Lake Simcoe? Zebra mussels?
Yeah, I think so.
Oh, I think so.
Can you
I would think
imagine
it's
the
connected
amount
to
of perch that's consumed every year?
big ones. Everybody gets the big
Of
ones.
course.
They're getting them right now.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's scary.
But even, you know what, now, like we've seen, Angie and Dean, we've seen that invasion of zebras moving into the Kawarthas at a ridiculous level. What about, all the walleye and maybe sunfish? I mean, the Americans that come up, they eat bluegill all the time and all that stuff. I wonder how much in those lakes it's all connected,
Well, I'm
right?
assuming that's exactly what we're talking about here. The Kawarthas, that whole trench system, everything north of Lake Ontario.
Oh my God!
That drains.
You go to a lock system. I'm sure Gretchen's seen this. You go to a lock system, and those big concrete walls are literally covered with, you can't see concrete. You see algae and you see zebras. That's it for as far as you can see. It's insane how much there is. So, or how many there are, whatever you want to say it. So,
interesting. So you've caused a problem now. You see this, huh?
Don't blame the messenger. I did look. You do have, you being your province, does have like quite a nice map and place where people can look for specific consumption advisories. Yeah. Maybe you'll want to link to that. Looks like they've got 2,000 plus lakes on there that they've tested.
So we can link that in our little YouTube there. Do you know?
I will.
Perfect.
That's interesting.
Perfect.
Where's the study going? Are you at the end of it? You branching off into something else?
Yeah, I mean, the thing with science, and especially science in the real world, it's the good and the bad, is every time we answer one question, we get 1,000 more to pursue. So yeah, we're continuing to research this, looking to see, like I said, if we observe these effects on other species of fish, in more than just these 21 lakes that we studied. We're looking kind of statewide and region-wide in Minnesota, Wisconsin, Michigan, to see how widespread this is, and if there are, certain factors that make it more likely that zebra mussels are going to cause this increase in certain places or not.
So, just summing up then, so that we have it completely straight, the problem is with the zebra mussel is the sheer numbers. They kind of overwhelm the environment that they live in with either byproduct, the waste material, whatever they're putting out. It's coating the bottom of the waterways that they are prevalent in, and that is what's causing the problem, right? If the zebra mussel was not as numerous, for example, we wouldn't have an issue. Right? It's just that there's
Correct.
so much of it.
Yeah.
Okay. So this could
when you
happen.
get to those-
This could happen with something else too, then, right? I mean, it doesn't have to be just zebra mussels. At any place where you've got too much of something, we mentioned quagga. There's probably other possibilities here, where you're actually putting a layer of scum or whatever we want to call it on the bottom. That's what is causing the issue.
Yeah, anything that alters the ecosystem in that way at those high densities could have this kind of unexpected effect. And there are other invasive species that don't do this thing on the bottom, but create a new, insert themselves in the food chain, if you will. So create a new level in a food chain.
Yes.
Like spiny water flea is one. Mm-hmm. And anything that does that can also increase contaminants in higher levels of fish. So if you add a step in the food chain, that further increases contaminants in fish. So that's just another example of ways that invasive species can affect this.
What about, this might be silly to say, but what about different weed types like milfoil, cabbage, coontail? Is mercury more prevalent in any certain weed type like that? It just sort of absorbs into it more than others?
I don't know about absorbs into it. I will just say anecdotally. So one of the lakes in our study that did not have zebra mussels, it does have a plant called starry stonewort, which is an invasive plant and again forms these kind of mats on the bottom.
Right.
And that lake had very high mercury despite not having zebra mussels in it. So that's another area we're interested in is, are these other things that are kind of forming these mats on the bottom having a similar effect that maybe we weren't aware of before?
Wow.
Crazy. Can folks get more information through you and or your group on arming themselves with this obviously newfound knowledge?
Yeah, we can link to the paper if anybody really wants to dive in. We've also got some like fact sheets and like a project page that explains some of the results. And yeah, folks can get in touch if they want.
Wow, I think it's interesting stuff. We should know. I mean, most people should really. I don't know if we can do anything about it, but I guess with your consumption is what we can do.
Consumption
right?
is the
That's
biggest
more
thing.
catch and release than eating, I guess, nowadays. But
I'd be more interested in finding out about the commercial
yeah,
product that's being put on the shelves. People consuming it that don't even fish, that have no idea what that. Some of them are probably buying it, don't even know what it is they're eating. Let's be honest about it. You know,
yeah,
so.
that could be with anything. Like that's with
Oh,
anything
yeah,
you do,
yeah.
right? Buy, right? Any kind of
Yeah.
meat, you don't know what the contaminants
No,
are in it.
I
and all
feel
that stuff.
confident that the meat industry is controlling somewhat. They do sample product on a regular basis for various, certainly from a bacteria standpoint and all that. I don't think.
Wow, you're right. When Gretchen said like swordfish and fish like that you're buying too, who knows? There might be no warnings whatsoever.
I'm going to turn vegan, just like our good friend down there.
He's not vegan, he's
No,
vegetarian.
He's vegetarian. All right.
Gretchen, have you ever been to Nebraska?
Yes.
There's a significance to that.
What?
Gretchen goes to Nebraska.
What's this?
You never heard that, eh?
No.
It's from a band.
Why?
It's an album called from King's X Rock Band. Just your
Oh.
name really reminded me of Gretchen Goes to Nebraska. Now you have to listen to it. Now
I
Gretchen,
do,
you have to
yeah.
listen to it. It's a pretty good album, I have to say.
Dr. Hansen, thank you very much for joining us. We appreciate it. If you get some new information for us, please let us know. We'll reach out to you as well from time to time and find out how the study is going. And in a perfect world, maybe this will lead to some solutions, because aside from the initial few years when zebra mussels first invaded this part of the world and the sky was falling, it seems like we've kind of laid back now and accepted that they're here and assimilated them into this, even the food chain, right? And just accepted them. But now we're finding out that maybe that wasn't the right thing to do, and we maybe should have been a little more vigilant at the time. Although I think it was a losing battle. Once they got into the Great Lakes, like, it was done, right? So, but thank you for shedding some light on the situation. We appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Our pleasure.
Awesome. Thanks, Gretchen.
Dr. Gretchen Hansen from Minnesota. I was going to say Minneapolis, Minnesota. Last time I was there. Dale Menton and the Live Bait Band. I was visiting them. Remember them?
Hey, I remember they did. Well,
They did an
a-
album. What's it called?
They didn't do our tune, right? Our Fish in Canada tune.
We were working on it, and then I can't remember what happened, but like everything else, we just got going a million miles an hour.
Yeah,
But we went down and we actually shot a music video for them in their studio.
Well, aren't you the jack of all trades?
It was great.
Oh
it was
my God,
great.
that's
Dale,
awesome.
Dale Menton and the Live
Live
Bait
Bait
Band,
Band.
but the album.
I remember the cover. I remember some kind of artwork with that.
It's
But,
great. It's great.
and that was in
Anyways,
Minneapolis.
Minneapolis, the only time I've ever been.
Wow. I've
Stayed
never
there
been.
for 3-4 days, I believe. Wonderful city.
Minnesota is a very, very good state like a very strong state for fishing and hunting for their natural resources.
time.
People that don't realize it, that it's huge. You know, like Gretchen said, Ontario has more lakes, but I'll tell you what, the resources there and the anglers and hunters there, hardcore. They're just like everybody like us.
Yeah.
They love it. They have it and they go for it. So.
Anyways, it's an interesting study. If nothing else, you should inform yourselves on what's going on with the product that you're consuming. Not to say it's the end of the world or by any means, but certainly another
I'm the worst
reason
for it. I go catch walleye on the Bay of Quinte all the time, and I eat a lot of them. Like, I mean, not a lot, but I eat, let's just say a lot of what I catch, I eat. If it's in that eating range that I want, I bring them home and eat them. You know what I mean?
I'm not
Don't even
worried
think
about that. I'm not worried about that because it's still relatively limited. Right, limited in that you got to go and you got to catch it, and then you got to bring it home, and you got to clean it.
Yeah, I mean,
and you're not
limited
going to be doing it every day.
But they might have a higher level than the ones you're buying too.
I'm concerned.
They might be. Who knows?
Well, no,
right?
but the ones that I'm buying are coming from contaminated bodies of water.
Well, Bay of Quinte's not. It's Lake
True.
Ontario, right?
But I could go there any day and buy it.
Right.
You've got to get in your vehicle. You got to
I
call
know.
your buddies. You got to drive up there. You
Well,
got
how
to
much
get
are
them a
you
hotel
eating?
room.
How much are you buying it? How
Not
often?
I
After
told
today?
You.
No,
I told
before
you.
today. How many were you buying?
I told you for a while. I thought, you know what? Because of the diet I'm on, I thought, wow, this is fantastic. I could just go and into the grocery store and buy it. It tastes really good. I mean, so why don't I eat it like 2 or 3 times a week? This was my thinking.
Why
Right?
don't you find out someplace that sells walleye that is Manitoba or something like that. Manitoba walleye. Maybe these lakes aren't contaminated, and then you could go at her 100% if you wanted. Maybe that'd be the solution to me. If you want to keep on to it, you got to find out where it's getting it. But that's going to be hard on its own. Maybe you can order it. Maybe you can get it shipped to your house frozen.
I'll get it shipped. I'll call. It's probably on Amazon.
Box of Manitoba walleye to your house.
I like it.
Drug-free.
Drug-free. I don't know why we're laughing, making a joke. This is serious. This is serious. I'm concerned about this. But anyways, it's a good thing to be at least aware of some of these issues, and that's why we thought we would bring Dr. Hansen on.
It doesn't matter to you and I, anyways. Men, they don't give a shit about men in this study, right? You guys eat it up. Go for it, boys.
Yeah.
Women and children first.
I question that too.
Well, I don't. I mean, you think about it. Women are it's all about the children, really. It is. It's the childbearing age, so it's all about the chillins. So.
All right, that's
the Utes.
I don't know why we're taking a serious issue and now
because you gotta have fun, but we gotta end on some fun, on a fun note,
Speaking of fun, if you don't go to fishingcanada.com and enter in the contest, the current giveaway that's there now, you're not having fun at all.
Come on now.
That's what I got to tell you.
Yeah.
Giving away all kinds of goodies. You can go. It's free of charge. All you have to do is take the time to go in and actually put in a ballot. I want to remind folks about our good friends, speaking about the giveaways, our good friends at J&B Cycle and Marine, who are partners in the giveaways, some of the giveaways
Come on now.
that you see on the site. They help us throughout the course of the year. They are Ontario's largest Princecraft Mercury dealer.
Give me a hell yeah.
Hell yeah. I guess so.
J&B Cycle. They've got a great online presence as well. You can buy all kinds of goodies, but really the thing that makes them extraordinary are the wonderful boat motor trailer packages, all ready to go. Just add gas and off you go.
I just sent him Robert an email the other day. Actually,
Did you?
Get him involved in a possible shoot up in the Timmins area this year.
Get the hell out of here!
Rob,
Anything you could share with the
well,
folks?
Rob hasn't got back to me yet.
Oh.
Come on, Rob, smarten up. So, but I think he's working on it.
All right. Thank you very much for joining us on behalf of the entire Outdoor Journal
Hey,
crew.
they shouldn't forget. We should throw out to the websites and the socials and the
Go for
YouTubes. You know what I mean? There's
Well,
fishingcanada.com.
there's only so much carrying I can do. I get tired at my
Socials,
age.
at Fishing Canada Official is Instagram, Fishing Canada Facebook, and of course the YouTube, which is where we really like to push a lot of people to. And make some comments, please. Give us some questions, some comments. Comment on this show. Comment about mercury levels. Comment about J&B Cycle. We don't care. Just give us something.
And
That's
as
all.
we saw earlier on in this
And like
program, you could get $100 worth of gift coupon just by submitting one of these questions.
Damn yeah. And there's a
Why wouldn't
lot
you?
to do with subscribing on our YouTube channel for that one too.
Come on now.
It helps a lot.
Is that it? Are we done? Can I close it off, or you still got something else?
I need
Dean, are you
I need a
good?
beer.
You need a beer and a walleye
Give me
fillet.
a hell yeah.
A walleye sandwich and a beer. Yeah.
Thanks, everybody, on behalf of the entire team. Volva, Dean, he's
Come on
Pete.
now.
I'm Ange. Thank you for joining us. We'll catch you next time. This episode of Outdoor Journal Radio has been brought to you in part by the Invasive Species Centre, protecting Canada's land and water from invasive species. Freedom Cruise Canada, rent the boat, own the memories. J&B Cycle and Marine, your home for all things power sports, boats, and equipment. And Sail, the ultimate destination for your outdoor adventures.